Welcome back to Askewed Reviews. And as I'm doing so throughout the year, I'm going through the entire Disney animated collection, and this does include live action mixed with animation. So today I'm doing the 1948 film, So Dear to My Heart. Here is your trivia question for today. Jeremiah seems to get most of his wisdom from what fictional character? The answer will be at the end of this episode. So, in the film So Dear to My Heart, we have our main character of Jeremiah. He lives on a farm with his grandmother, and on occasion is visited by his uncle Hiram and his cousin, sister, some sort of relative, Tildy. Now, one day, a train pulls into town, and on this train is a magnificent horse that apparently has won all sorts of accolades and prizes. So, this causes Jeremiah to decide that one day he too will own a horse that will be prize worthy. Now, that very night, some of the sheep end up having babies, and one of those babies is a black sheep. Now, Granny does not like black sheep, as apparently you can't get as much money for their wool. This causes Jeremiah to decide that if Granny doesn't want it, then he'll take it as his pet. Months then go by, and Danny the sheep grows up, but unfortunately becomes quite a bit of a nuisance. Jeremiah, though, still has faith that Danny will become a prize winning ram. So, can Jeremiah convince Granny to take him and Danny to the county fair so that Danny can compete in the competition? And even if they convince her, will Danny actually be able to do so? This movie was directed by Harold D. Schuster and Hamilton Lusk. Schuster was specifically chosen by Walt Disney as he and his family absolutely loved the movie My Friend Flicka, which Schuster directed. Walt Disney, by the way, must have felt that Schuster did a good job as he considers this movie one of his personal favorites. The movie was originally filmed in 1946 but was not actually released until 1948. So Dear to My Heart was the first full length feature film to be shown on the Disney Channel when it went on the air on April 18th, 1983. Now, this movie, just like Song of the South, has never made its way to Disney Plus, which is kind of surprising, as So Dear to My Heart doesn't seem like there would be any issue, unlike Song of the South. This film would be the second time Disney would bring together child actors Bobby Driscoll and Luana Patton. The first time they appeared together was in the film Song of the South, and the last time they appeared together was in the movie Melody Time. The character of Uncle Hiram is played by Burl Ives, but it was a bit surprising that Walt Disney allowed him into the film, as Ives was actually a pro communist. The song Lavender Blue that Ives would sing in this film would turn out to be his first hit. Also, if you don't recognize Burl Ives, you probably at least recognize his voice as the snowman in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The head judge in the Ram competition was played by Harry Carey. This unfortunately would be his final film, and he actually passed away before the movie was released. Disney animator Ward Kimball was given the train depot set that he put into his backyard, which would become known as Grizzly Flats Railroad. A few years later, Walt Disney asked for it back to use in Disneyland. Kimball refused, so they ended up making a replica to use in Disneyland. The directors said that the most difficult part of making this movie were the sheep, as they apparently just got everywhere. The movie was entirely filmed in California, so when it comes to the film So Dear to My Heart, I did end up liking this one a bit more than I thought I was going to. Now, a lot of older films from this time period, especially ones that had that kind of Lassie or Little House on the Prairie kind of feel, weren't all that entertaining. And not that this one is tons of fun, but I will say it's a good movie to watch with your family, especially if you have children. So I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. Now it's time for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode. Jeremiah seems to get most of his wisdom from what fictional character? So that character happens to be the wise old owl, which Jeremiah apparently has a bunch of flashcards or postcards with this character on it that has a bunch of philosophical or moral sayings. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.